Geeta Vinod, Hari Om. You can chant.
Hari Om, ma'am.
Hari Om.
ॐ पार्थाय प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन ग्रथितां पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीम् अष्टादशाध्यायिनीम् अम्ब त्वाम् अनुसन्दधामि भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणी। नमोऽस्तु ते व्यासविशालबुद्धे फुल्लारविन्दायतपत्रनेत्र येन त्वया भारततैलपूर्णः प्रज्वालितो ज्ञानमयः प्रदीपः प्रपन्नपारिजाताय स्तोत्रवेत्रैकपाणये ज्ञानमुद्राय कृष्णाय गीतामृतदुहे नमः। सर्वोपनिषदो गावो दोग्धा गोपालनन्दनः पार्थो वत्सः सुधीर्भोक्ता दुग्धं गीतामृतं महत् वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुम्। भीष्मद्रोणतटा जयद्रथजला गान्धारनीलोत्पला शल्यग्राहवती कृपेण वहनी कर्णेन वेलाकुला अश्वत्थामविकर्णघोरमकरा दुर्योधनावर्तिनी सोत्तीर्णा खलु पाण्डवैरणनदी कैवर्तकः केशवः पाराशर्यवचः सरोजममलं गीतार्थगन्धोत्कटं नानाख्यानककेसरं हरिकथा संबोधनाबोधितं लोके सज्जन षट्पदैरहरहः पेपीयमानं मुदा भूयाद् भारत पंकजं कलिमल प्रध्वंसिनः श्रेयसे। मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे परमानन्दमाधवम्। यं ब्रह्मा वरुणेन्द्ररुद्रमरुतः स्तुन्वन्ति दिव्यैस्तवैः वेदैः साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदैः गायन्ति यं सामगाः ध्यानावस्थिततद्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनः यस्यान्तं न विदुः सुरासुरगणाः देवाय तस्मै नमः। हरि ओम। धन्यवादः।
धन्यवादः। हरि ओम। नारायणं पद्मभुवं वसिष्ठं शक्तिं च तत्पुत्रपराशरं च व्यासं शुकं गौडपदं महान्तं गोविन्दयोगीन्द्रमथास्य शिष्यम् श्रीशङ्कराचार्यमथास्य पद्मपादं च हस्तमलकं च शिष्यम् तं तोटकं वार्तिककारमस्य मन्यान् अस्मद्गुरून् सन्ततमानतोऽस्मि श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानामालयं करुणालयम् नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करम् शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणम् सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम् ॐ परं वरिष्ठं ब्रह्मिष्ठं परमानन्दरूपिणं परमार्थानन्दयतिं सद्गुरुं प्रणतोऽस्म्यहम् So, the 17th chapter began with a question from Arjuna regarding Shraddha or faith, and Lord Krishna replied by talking about the three types of Shraddha based on the personality of the individual, and the classification is based on the deity where a person has got Shraddha, the type of puja that he performs to the deity, and also the motive with which he performs the puja. All these are clues or indicators to determine the type of Shraddha a person has. We saw this in the last class. In fact, Krishna has answered Arjuna's question with this portion, and therefore he could have wound up the chapter. But Krishna himself voluntarily introduces 4 more topics, and each one he divides into Sattvika, Rajasika and Tamasika aspects. So the purpose of this classification is to give a message to all the spiritual seekers in general and very serious spiritual seekers in particular. Whatever is classified as Sattvika, a spiritual speaker must try to follow and promote. Right? Whatever is classified as Rajasic, one need not promote, right? One has to keep it under optimum measure without overdoing. It is not harmful, but it is preferable to reduce. So Rajasic variety should be reduced, but it is not harmful. Whereas all the Tamasic categories, a spiritual seeker should attempt to avoid as early as possible. Avoid Tamasic, reduce Rajasic, and increase Sattvic. So this is the spiritual slogan, right? So avoiding of Tamasic, reduction of Rajasic, and increasing the Sattvika one, right? So if a person is a spiritual speaker, and that too seeker, and that too a serious spiritual seeker, and the topic Krishna voluntarily introduced in the 7th verse was Aharaha, right? He introduced Aharaha, Yajnaha, Tapaha, Danam, right? And first Krishna wants to deal with Ahara. So 8th shloka deals with Sattvika Ahara in general, 9th deals with Rajasika, and 10th Tamasa. And Krishna includes this topic because in our Shastra, Ahara or food is given very, very important place in our Shastra. And what I find most useful as a Grihastha seeker is, I think it is very, very important for us to be aware of the Rajasic aspects of all these, because that is where, as you progress on the spiritual journey, you have a dilemma as to how much of Rajasika aspects to follow and how much to start withdrawing. So, in my own experience, as we go up in the spiritual journey, as we progress more and more, some amount of conscious effort and therefore awareness of how we can replace a bit of the Rajasika aspect with Sattvika aspect will become very, very important. So to note that and to act becomes very important for a Grihastha-ashrami person. So the following 3 shlokas talk about 3 types of food. We had entered the 8th shloka actually in the last class. So the 8th shloka talks about Sattvika Ahara. Ayu Sattva Balarokya Sukha Priti Vivardhanaha Rasyaha Snigdaha Stira Krityaha Aharaha Sattvika Priyaha. So even though in Yoga Shastra also there is a big list given, right? So there are some vegetables which come under Sattvika, some that come under Rajasika, etc. One thing we know is onion, garlic, etc. We have been asked to definitely try and avoid, right? Based on the scriptural classification. So Krishna doesn't specifically mention these kind of, vegetables or spices or any of them, but Krishna gives a general note. He says following type of food are classified as Sattvika Ahara in the scriptures, and the following food are naturally liked by Sattvika people. Therefore, if I am a Sattvika person, I would like a Sattvika kind of food. So therefore he says, Ayuhu Sattva Bala Arogya Sukha Priti Vivardhinaha. So those types of food which will promote the following factors. Ayuhu means longevity. Sattva means mental strength. Manobalam, right? And Sharira Balam, right? Physical strength and mental strength. Arogyam, health, physical health, mental health, and spiritual health, right? That which contributes to health, right? So that is where we have a problem, because people ask, garlic and onion are 2 things which are glorified so much, right, in the magazines, right? So even more than God, onion and garlic are normally glorified, right? So, but if you go by what our forefathers, right, the orthodox people said, they avoided that. Therefore, people ask the question, when medical science is glorifying, how can our Shastra be unscientific, right? So is it proper? And they want an answer to that. Shastra's answer is, medical science is only talking about physical health. They don't talk about mental and spiritual things. Onion and garlic are banned in the tradition because they are spiritually promoting Rajoguna, Tamoguna, Ragaha and Krodaha, right? Therefore, they say they may be good physically, but if you are a spiritual student, either avoid or reduce. Similarly, alcohol also, right? They say now and then small quantities are good, etc., right? For the heart, right? Even as per Shastra, even smelling is considered to be a type of papam. Varieties of papam are enumerated, right? And during Yajurveda Avanyavatam, that is the Upakarma, Yajurveda, Rigveda, Upakarma, right? So during the Sankalpa, they actually talk about varieties of papam. Mahapadakanam, Atipadakanam, Upapadakanam, Sankalikaranam, Malinikarananam, Apadrikarananam, right? Jati Brahmsakarananam. All these are different types of papam. Drinking liquor is one type of papam, and even smelling liquor is another type of papam. So thus Shastra talks about Rajasic, Tamasic, etc. Even though medical science may consider them good, because we don't look at physical health alone as Arogyam. Shastra talks about Arogyam of the mind and the spiritual pursuit itself, right? Therefore, Arogya means spiritual health, and similarly, non-vegetarian food, meat, etc., right? It may be physically, right? It may be good because they may say vegetarianism, proteins are less, etc., right? They may even say that vegetarians will have problems, this, that. But for ages now, vegetarians have been surviving on this wholesome food, right? Therefore, at least in India, right, we don't have such a big problem in following the vegetarian diet, right? So meat is definitely comes under tamoguna. So arogyam here refers to spiritual health. We must remember, otherwise we will have this confusion all the time, right? So what will promote arogyam and sukham, the comfort while consuming those foods. Sukha means the comfort in eating them, and preeti. Preeti means it should be pleasing to the sense organs also, right? Even the mere sight should be pleasing, right? So some of them, even the sight is not pleasing. We are not able to take it, right? Rasyaha, which are delicious, and generally whatever is delicious, the commentators say is sweet, maduraha, right? Therefore, in our tradition, any function means sweet should be there. That is why in all the yajnas, right? If you see all the nevedyams, whether you have any spicy food or not as nevedyam, you will always find that the sweet is the first thing that is kept for nevedyam, right? So it does not mean that you should binge, right? Like have so much of Tirupati laddu every day, etc. No, moderation is important, right? Moderation of sweet also comes under sattvika food, right? So in moderation, rasya and snigdaha. Snigdaha means which has the right amount of oil or ghee. Ghee is considered to be sattvika in our system, and it is considered to be very good for the intellect also. That is why they always, right, say upastranam, add some ghee, they say, right? And we, of course, we keep saying that it is harmful, etc. But of course, now science is also catching up saying ghee is good. We are not talking about drinking ghee, right? We are talking about using a little amount or right amount of oil or ghee, right? So stiraha, extremely dry food you will see is classified under rajasic, right? Stiraha means well nourishing to the body, full of nutrition, and hridyaha, which gives you a pleasant feeling after eating, and you don't come under any discomfort. They all come under sattvika ahara. And the next two shlokas are going to talk about the rajasika and tamasika ahara, right? And it's very interesting to make a side note here in Chandogya Upanishad, right? So the teacher says, right, when we consume food, it is divided into 3 portions, right? This is all there in the Upanishad, so we come to know the gross portion, the middle portion, and the subtle portion. The gross portion is that which caters only to the taste but does not cater to our personality at all. It just goes as a waste later, right? It's called the stula amshaha. Stula amshaha, that is the gross amsha. Then there is a middle portion, and that is the portion that is supposed to cater or contribute to the stula shariram, the physical body, which contains all the nutritions which will cater to our bone, flesh, blood, etc. Right? This alone, the modern medical science talks about, right? The content of each food, which is having iron, sodium, etc. Right? All these nutritions which cater to the stula shariram. Then the Shastra talks about a third layer, which the medical science doesn't talk about. That is considered to be the subtlest of the subtle portion of the food, right? Extremely sukshma, which will cater to the sukshma shariram or the inner personality. It can turn the mind into sattvika mind or rajasika mind or tamasika mind, since the food contributes to our inner personality. All spiritual seekers must follow appropriate food, not only for physical health, but more importantly for the inner spiritual health, right? Chandogya Upanishad 651, okay? Annamashitam tredha vidiyate. It specifically says it is in 3 parts, right? Exactly what I explained now, right? Then again in Chandogya, in the 7th chapter, right, where there's a discussion between Uddalaka and Shvetaketu. No, in the 6th chapter, it is between Uddalaka and Shvetaketu. In the 7th chapter of the Chandogya Upanishad, it is between Sanat Kumara and Narada. There at the end also, it is again said, right? Ahara Shuddhi, Sattva Shuddhi, Ahara Shuddhau, Sattva Shuddhi, Sattva Shuddhau, Dhruva smritihi smritilambe sarvagrantinam mokshaha. Right? So this is 7:26:2. The purer the food, the purer the mind, right? And when the mind is pure, we can receive the spiritual knowledge and we can retain the spiritual knowledge. So smriti lambe sarvagrantinam vipramokshaha. A person gets rid of the bondage of samsara through this route. Therefore, ahara shuddhi is important, right? And Shankaracharya's commentary specifically says ahara does not mean what we consume through the tongue. It also considers everything else that we consume through other sense organs also. Even watching TV program, right? All of them, whatever can influence our mind, right? So therefore, ahara is considered important. The quality of ahara and the manner in which we consume, the quantity, everything. So Lord Krishna said, Yukta ahara viharasya yukta cheshtasya karmasu. Right? It should all be in moderation. We should be able to always eat in moderation, quantity wise also, right? In fact, when you look at our, say our Shastras or our supporting, scriptures or supporting books, right, which constitute the Shastra, you see that so much thought has gone into it, and there is a very nice, nice shloka, right? Puraye dashanena ardham tritiyam udakena tu vayu sancharanarthaya chaturtham avasheshayat. Right? Purayet ashanena ardham. Only half of the stomach must be filled with food and another must be water, another, right? And the last quarter, right, must be kept empty so that the food can move within the stomach. Suppose you fill up with 100%, it is so tight that it can't move. So, vayoho sancharanarthaya chaturtham avasheshaye, right? And it specifically says that keep it empty so that the vayu can move, right? And the manner of eating has been spoken about. And also it is said that you look at eating as an offering, Nevedyam, to the Lord, Vaishvanara, who is inside. And if we remember that, right, in the 15th chapter, we saw Aham Vaishvanaro Bhutva Praninam Deham Ashritah Prana Pana Samayuktah Pachamyannam Chaturvidam. In the form of Samana Prana, I reside in everyone. Therefore, eating is a Nevedyam to Bhagavan. It is called Pranagni Hotram. Right? Therefore, may you do it reverentially. Minimum, we should sit and eat. We are not supposed to eat walking, running, standing, etc. So the manner is highlighted, the quantity is highlighted, the quality is highlighted, right? And they say as much as possible, avoid eating out, right? And they say don't speak when you are eating, right? All of that. And then know who is cooking, etc. Right? So according to Shastra, you should not eat in a place where you don't know about the hygiene, how the plates are being washed, etc. Right? It took care of physical hygiene, right? And even at home, you know what is the atmosphere in which it is cooked, etc. And in that place you cook and eat, right? So, and they say that when you are cooking, if you do say Vishnu Sahasranama, Parayanam and cook, etc., the food itself will be that much better, right? And we also offer it to the Lord as Nevedyam before we consume it. Ishvara Prasadaha, right? So in the 13th verse of the 3rd chapter, Lord Krishna says, Yajnashishtashinas santaha muchyante sarva kilbishaihi bhunjate te tvagam papaha ye pachantyatma karanat. We are supposed to eat Ishvara Prasada, right? And if we are eating outside and we cannot avoid, right? Minimum, it is better for us to say Annapurne, Sadapurne, Shankara Pranavallabe, or Ekor Vishnur Madbhutam Pritak Bhutan Anekachah Trin Lokan Vyapya Bhutatma Bhunte Vishwabhukavyayah. Right? So we can at least mentally chant before eating. If not anything else, Krishna Krishna, Govinda, Ishvara's name we utter and then we eat. Right? Therefore, we used to give importance, right, to all these, the daily puja, then snanam before the cooking of the food, etc. And during the Ahamarshana Suktam, right, the Sandhyavandana Mantram, etc. We used to also ask for forgiveness if we overate. Atyashanat, Adipanat, Yacha, Ugrat, Pratigrahat, Tanno Varuno, Raja Panina Syavamarshatu, He Varuna Bhagavan, right? The Agamarshana Sutram, where you ask for pardon for drinking too much, eating too much, right? So Veda has incorporated this prayer for what reason? To show that the food does influence our personality, right? And in fact, the Sandhyavandana mantras are from Mahava Narayana Upanishad, right? Yaduchishta mabhojyam yadva dushcharitam mama sarvam punantu mamapa satam cha pratigrahum swaha yaduchishtam abhojyam. What should not be eaten, I eat. Where should not be eaten, I eat. I try to avoid. If I can't, at least we have to pray to the Lord for purification. So this is the fundamental aspect, Sattvika Ahara definition that Krishna gave, right? And very important. Now, this is just a small aside note because I found it very important in Chandogya Upanishad and then, you know, the Sandhyavandana Mantram. I thought I must speak about it. So let's continue. Katvam lavanatyushna tikshna. Kat, I think you have to chant this fully. So let me chant this fully. Katvam lavanatyushna tikshna ruksha vidahinah. Ahara rajasasyeshtaha. Ahara rajasasyeshtaha dukkha shokamaya pradaha dukkha shokamaya pradaha katu amala lavana ushna tikshna ruksha vidahinah, right? So these are the different types of taste, right? Of these maduram or sweetness comes under sattvika food, and all other shastra says must be taken only in moderation, right? So what are the other tastes? That is what Krishna is enumerating here. Katu means bitter, right? And that which is too much bitter, right? And then you have ati ushna, so you have to take that ati and add to everything. Ati katu, ati amala, ati lavana, etc. Right? So ati katu, too much bitter, right? Ati ushna, right? Ati ushna means too much heat, right? Then ati, next after ati katu is ati amla, means sour, right? Too much sour. And then lavana, too much of salt. And ushna means too much of heat. Temperature wise also, too much hot food should not be taken. It should be warm. Similarly, it should not be too cold also, right? So between the body temperature and the temperature of the food, the gap should not be too much. So ati ushna is to be avoided. Ati tikshna means pungent or karam, too much of chili, right? Then ruksha, it should not be too dry also, right? So there must be some oil or ghee, and the opposite, right? We saw ghee in Sattvika. In the last shloka, we saw snigdaha. So here it is rukshaha. And then the last one is vidahinaha. There are certain types of food items like the mustard, right? They can burn inside and increase the heat of the body. Very similar to some of the Ayurvedic medicines, which that's why they called it shuddha, heating medicines. They go inside and cause the body temperature to go up. So they are called vidahinaha, that which burns the system. All of them are Rajasic diets. They should be reduced, right? And Rajasic people will love that diet, right? And that is why that should be reduced. Dukkha shoka Amaya pradaha. Too much of rajasic diet will give dukkham, pain while eating. So there are some people, they will directly eat chili, right? You have to keep chili ready for them when they come home, and then they will eat that, right? And they have a peculiar combination. Some parts of even India, right? Garlic, chili, and mustard oil. And these three, they just, with the hand, they press and they consume until tears roll down because of the chili. And then they say it's wonderful, right? So it gives pain to the body at the time of eating, and then shoka, it gives pain later also. Amaya pradaha means disease causing, right? Because it can cause varieties of disease. There will be pain later also. Therefore, avoid them, right? Avoid too much of them. This is rajasic food, right? So, katu, amala, right? Amla, katu, amla. These are the following are the ones: katu, amala, lavana, ushna, tikshna, ruksha, vidahinaha, right? So all the tastes have been covered here, which are very bitter, very sour, very saltish, very hot, very pungent, dry, and burning. Those are all rajasic food. Continuing. Yatayamam gatarasam, yatayamam gatarasam, puti pariyushitam chayat, puti pariyushitam chayat, uchishtamaphi chamedhyam, uchishtamaphi chamedhyam, bhojanam tamasapriyam, bhojanam tamasapriyam. In our tradition, we generally have the practice of eating only cooked food. The concept of uncooked food, salad, etc. was not there in the tradition because we believed that only certain kinds of foods could be had raw. For instance, coconut water, right? I'm giving you an example. There were clear, finite list of things which could be had raw, right? So all the others had to be cooked. In our tradition, it was always believed that the food will be cooked and Agni can remove certain negative things from the food, and it is a purifier, right? And it can purify the gross impurities as well as the subtle impurities. Therefore, cooking is considered important. Right? In fact, before cooking, they used to offer rice grains in the Agni, right? As a prayer, right? They would rotate and put it into the Agni. They would offer it into the Agni and pray to the Agni. In fact, without having a bath, we would never touch the Agni. We would never light the cooking stove, right? Today, of course, sometimes there's no Agni at all because we have electric stove, right? So they pray to Agni, and even though cooking is important, our Shastra says it should not be undercooked also, right? It should not be overcooked and it should not be undercooked also. Either way, it becomes tamasic food. So yatayamam means mandapakvam, not cooked or not cooked sufficiently. That comes under tamasic food. And gatarasam means the cooking is done so much that gatarasam means what? The rasam is gone. The nutrition has gone from the vegetable and it has mixed with water, and the water they throw out. Therefore, what has happened after cooking, over boiling of the vegetables, you throw away the water, there's no nutritional value left, right? So gata rasam indicates the food which has lost its nutritional power. Gataha rasaha yasmat saha gatarasaha, right? And then puti. Puti means whatever food items are foul smelling. Either at the time of cooking it is foul smelling or afterwards. From this itself, you will know that most of the non-vegetarian items will come under tamasic only, right? Therefore, avoiding all types of foul smelling food, anything that smells, right? Even the garlic, etc. Now, even if it is considered to be nutritious, right? So, very clearly, even if it is good for physical health, etc., for a spiritual seeker, right? We're not discussing about others. For a spiritual seeker, these kind of foods have to be avoided, right? And paryushitam has two meanings. One meaning is leftover. Any cooked food or any food for that matter, we can't, we can't keep that food, leftover food, for tomorrow or day after or 1 week later. We cannot do that, right? So it is considered tamasic one, and as per our tradition, even the food left overnight is considered to be tamasic food. Therefore, we are not supposed to keep the food overnight for consumption later. Paryushitam means that which is kept overnight. And of course, those days refrigerator was not there, right? But Shastra does not recommend this because of another rule also, not only just this rule. Because we are supposed to eat the food that is offered to Bhagavan. You can't offer the food that has been kept for 2 days to Bhagavan, right? You can only offer what you cook today to Bhagavan and then eat. Therefore, if you have to follow these instructions, automatically in the morning you have to get up, cook, offer to Ishvara for Naivedyam, and then consume it during the day. That's all. It's an extension, right? So, in fact, Swamiji always gives this example of, storing 2-3 weeks food in the fridge with labels for breakfast, lunch, dinner, because, some men don't know how to cook, or even some women for that matter today don't know how to cook. So you just pack and put it in the fridge and use it for 2-3 weeks, etc. He says, Pujya Swamiji as well as this Swamiji, they are very clear that for a spiritual seeker, right, we have to be clear. This will not work. Whatever little we cook every day and eat, right? So, Uchishtam means leftover, and Amedhyam. Medhyam means which is worthy of offering to Bhagavan, right? So, whatever can be offered to Bhagavan, that alone can be eaten by us, because we have to offer our food to Bhagavan, right? And therefore, by extension, we can't offer meat, liquor, etc. to Bhagavan, the Satvika kind of deities, and therefore we can't eat them too. Therefore, avoid all amedhyam, right? So, medhya means yajnaha, medaha means yajnaha, medha is memory, medha shakti is memory. So, medhyaha, that which can be offered in puja arham. Amedhyam is that which cannot be offered to Bhagavan, right? So, all of them come under tamasic food. So the indirect instruction here is what? Promote Satvika food, reduce Rajasika, and avoid Tamasika. So this is a consolidation of the ahara. That Satvik is that which is delicious, which gives longevity, health, strength, and happiness. Rajasic is that which is excessively bitter, sour, salty, hot, pungent, and which causes pain. Tamasic is that which is improperly cooked, without nutrition, right? Stale, leftover, and impure. अफलाकाङ्क्षिभिर्यज्ञः अफलाकाङ्क्षिभिर्यज्ञः विधिदृष्टो च य युज्यते विधिदृष्टो य युज्यते यष्टव्यमेवेति मनः यष्टव्यमेवेति मनः समाधाय स सात्विकः समादाय स सात्विकः यष्टव्यम एति यष्टव्यमेति. Okay, there is a small correction there in my pronunciation. Yashtavyameveti, very important. Yashtavyam eveti manaha. Having completed 3 types of ahara now, Krishna is entering the second topic, 3 types of yajna or puja. The word yajna is generally used for a Vedic ritual, right? But we can extend it to our puja also, right? That a person performs. And Shastra talks about many types of yajnas. Of them, 2 are to be noted here. certain types of yajnas and pujas are prescribed for our own personal benefit, called what? Artha Bhakti and Artharthi Bhakti, right? You remember these two which we saw. So Artha Yajna and Artharthi Yajna, right? So we saw Artha Bhakti and Artharthi Bhakti, which is to solve certain problems specifically or for success in particular pursuit, right? Artha Bhakti for solving certain problems and Artharthi Bhakti for success in certain particular pursuit, that is Sakama Yajna, right? So it should be performed by a person who has got a desire for that. A person who is unemployed may do a puja for employment. An employed person need not do it because it is no more relevant, right? So they are all Sakama Yajna. Then there is another group of yajnas or prayers which are considered to be Nitya Yajna, which are compulsory yajnas to be done by every Vedic follower in general and every spiritual seeker in particular, right? Therefore, Krishna calls them Vididrishta Yajna, right? Vididrishta Yajna, Vedic commandments. If you don't do them, you will get a particular type of papam called Pratyavaya papam, which will pull you down spiritually. Therefore, they are considered compulsory yajnas, since they are not desire-based yajnas, but compulsory yajnas. So they are called Nishkama Yajna, Nitya Naimittika Yajna. Nishkama Yajna, because you don't expect anything, right, in return, and Nitya Naimittika currently, except which is compulsory as a Grihastha-ashrami person or a Brahmacharya ashrami person, right? And of many such yajnas, we've always talked about, we must remember Pancha Mahayajna is compulsory, right? And we should do them, we should not convert them into Kamya Karma, right? Only two types of sankalpa is allowed here. What are the two types of sankalpa when you're doing Pancha Mahayajna? One is Lokakshemartham. May this puja contribute to the well-being of the entire universe. Sarve bhavantu sukhinaha, sarve santu niramayaha, right? So you ask for the well-being of the world, right? So when we pray for the entire universe, our mind expands, our ahankara, the mamakara, and mamakara gets diluted, right? Therefore, one sankalpa is Lokakshemartha. That is one. The second sankalpa is Jnana Vairagya Siddhyartham, right? Spiritual prayers are not considered Sakama Karma. If you ask for Chitta Shuddhi, right? Jnana Vairagya Siddhyartham, that is not Sakama Karma, right? When I pray for Shravana Prapti, Manana Prapti, Nididhyasana Prapti, all of them will come under Nishkama only. Therefore, for spiritual growth and the world's well-being, we can do that yajna, and those yajnas are compulsory. Therefore, Krishna says, Vididrishta Ijyate, right? When a yajna is performed based on the Vedic commandment and aphala kangshibi, without entertaining ahankara and mamakara, right? Phala kankshi means ahankara, mamakara, or artha, artharthi prayers are avoided, right? In this case, the prayer is Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinaha or Jnana Vairagya Siddhyartham, right? So if you don't seek anything else, that is Nishkama Yajna. And the last one is Yashtavyam, right? I have to compulsorily do this, like paying tax, right? It comes under, if you see many people paying tax doesn't come under Kamya Karma, it comes under Vihita Karma. It is a compulsory karma, right? We have to do. So similarly, Pancha Mahayajna is a tax we pay for claiming ourselves as Hindus, right? And we have to do the Pancha Mahayajna, right? Very, very important. And they are Vihita Karma. Therefore, Yashtavyam, and also the fear of what? The Vedas say, Taittiriya Upanishad says, Shraddaya Deyam, Ashraddaya Deyam, Shriya Deyam, Mriya Deyam. There must be a fear. What fear? Pratyavaya Papam. If I don't do this, I will have a Papam. So yashtavyam means it has to be done, right? Iti manaha samadhaya, and when it is done as a compulsory duty, after some time, right, slowly it will become a practice, right? And what happens is, whatever one does, right, we will not do it for sakama reasons, but for nishkama reasons only. So selfish activity, manaha samadhaya, selfish activity, we are all careful, but when we do for something for worldly well-being, we can be okay. Very important, when we do something as sakama puja, even earlier I was telling, the rituals, the rules and everything is very, very particular and rigid. Whereas when we are doing for the sake of lokakshemartham, it is fine if you make some few mistakes, because it is the genuineness of the puja that matters. Samadhanam means with concentration, focus, commitment, wholeheartedly, you should do it, right? Now, Nitya Sandhya Vandanam will again come under what? It is also a compulsory duty, right? So, Aharaha Sandhyam Upasita, it is a duty, right? So, now if people are not able to do Sandhya Vandanam, a good replacement is Aditya Hridayam, right? And it is a very beautiful yajna. And all these karmas will come under what? Satvika yajna, right? And it will help me grow spiritually very, very fast, right? So every Vaidika should compulsorily do Ishvara Aradhanam, right? The only difference is that as per the Shastras, in the Krita Yuga, right, it was Dhyana Pradhana, right? Dhyayan krite yajan yagne stretayam dwapare chayan yadapnoti tadapnoti kalau sankirtya keshavam, right? So in this well-known shloka, in Krita Yuga, upasana was dominant, rituals were less. Treta Yuga, Vaidika yajnas were dominant. And by Dwapara Yuga, Vedic rituals had come down, right? And it was replaced by Agama Pradhana, Archana, etc., flowers, pujas, etc., right? And by the time it came to Kali Yuga, even Archana has come down. Kalau Sankirtya Keshavam, Kirtana Pradhana, Nama Sankirtana Pradhana, right? In Kali Yuga. Therefore, you either do Vedic rituals or do Upasana, or do Archana, or at least do Kirtana, Hare Rama, etc. Right? So to get an Upanishad to get over any of your problems, right? In fact, there is a special Upanishad called Kali Santarana Upanishad, right? In that, it is actually highlighted that if you do even Hare Rama, it is some kind, it can replace your Archana, Hare Rama mantra, right? So all of this will come under Ishvara Aradhanam, right? So they are all called Yajnaha, and in the scriptures, they are classified into Nishkama Yajnaha or compulsory Yajna, and then the Kamya Yajna or non-compulsory Yajnas, which are to be done only when there is a desire, right? So, and then you have Vihita Yajnaha, which are compulsory desires and compulsory duties. Whether you like it or not, you have to do the Vihita Yajnaha, and if you do not do that, you will have Pratyavaya Papam, right? So that is called Vidhi Drishta in the shloka. So Vihita Yajna, Kamya Yajnas, Nishiddha Yajnaha means those rituals done for harming others, right? So Kamya Yajna is Nishiddha Yajna, which is not the best form of Satvik Yajna. So Satvik Yajnas are, in summary, Nishkama Yajnas, right? They are Vihita Yajnas and mainly Nishkama. Basically, you don't expect any result other than Lokakshemartham as well as Jnana Vairagya Siddhyartham. In summary, that is Satvika Yajna. Abhisandhaya tu phalam, Abhisandhaya tu phalam, Dambhartamapi chaiva yat दम्भार्थमपि चैव यत् इज्यते भरतश्रेष्ठ इज्यते भरतश्रेष्ठ तं यज्ञं विद्धि राजसम् तं यज्ञं विद्धि राजसम्. Rajasic yajna is that in which a person selects only Kamya Puja based on the material benefit that is promised by either the Shastra or the temple priest or the astrologer or the Nadi astrologer, right? So whatever they ask to do, right? So they do that. But Shastra gives a very, very important warning here. If you do not perform Vihita Puja, what is Vihita Puja? Compulsory pujas that are prescribed as per your ashrama dharma, right? And you do the Kamya Puja, none of them will be effective. So basically, if you are a Grihastha Ashrami person and if you are not doing as per your Varna and your ashrama, there are certain duties prescribed, like looking after your parents and doing the Shardam, all of that, right? If you don't do the compulsory ones and then you do other Kamya Pujas for getting some success in your career or something else, none of them will work, right? So Shastra gives a very, very strong warning. So if the person omits the Vihita Puja in the form of Pancha Mahayajna and selects only Kamya Puja and performs, right? Phalam Abhisandaya, expecting the result, and he does not even do it properly, right? For instance, if you have a, right, um, if you have a puja and you don't do it properly, right? First of all, you have to follow all the Vihita Karma. Then after that, you have to follow all the rules prescribed by the rituals. All of them are important, right? So, Phalam Abhisandaya, expecting material awards and rewards. And another thing is Dhambhartam api. Often the puja is done only for self-publicity, right? For others to know that I am a great one, I am a big one, with pomp and show and publicity. That is Dhambaha. So, Dambhartam api yatijyate. Whatever karma is done, He Bharata Shrestha Arjuna, tahi yajnam rajasam viddhi. Know that kind of yajna to be the rajasic type, right? No doubt he is performing the yajna, and the yajna which will produce the material benefit also, depending upon the quality of yajna, it will benefit, but it is a rajasic yajna, right? And spiritual growth will be minimum, because in the 13th chapter, while listing the values, one of the value listed was amanitvam, and then of course adambitvam, without pomp and show, without publicity, do the maximum. That is the scriptural injunction. So dambhartam api yat tijyate tam rajasam viddhi. May you do it as rajasic yajna. Then what is tamasic yajna? Continuing. विधिहीनमसृष्टान्नम् विधिहीनमसृष्टान्नम् मन्त्रहीनमदक्षिणम् मन्त्रहीनमदक्षिणम् श्रद्धाविरहितं यज्ञम् श्रद्धाविरहितं यज्ञम् तामसं परिचक्षते Tamasam paricakshate. So tamasic yajna is the worst form of yajna. Generally, tamasic people will not have interest in doing anything. They are generally the lazy ones because they would like to sleep extra, right? Rather than get up and do this, right? So Krishna says vidhihinam, violating all the shastric rules of puja. Vidhi means the do's and don'ts given in the Shastra, because once I want to do something which is based on the Shastra, I have to follow all the rules, exactly like you follow Patyam for Ayurveda, etc. So, Vidihina Yajnaha, Mantrahinam. Vidhihinam means without the rules and without the proper mantras, right? So, during wedding, you end up chanting some Shraddha mantra, or a person is getting married and you say na karmana na prajaya na dane na tyagena ikke. That is not the right thing, right? So the right mantras have to be chanted, right? Very important. So for everything there is an appropriateness. Therefore, mantrahinam, either mantras are changed or wrongly chanted. And then adakshinam, when dakshinam comes, he becomes the most conservative person who religiously follows the amount which was given by his great grandfather. He never even thinks of what has happened to the inflation all these days, etc. Right? So it has to be enhanced, right? Therefore, adakshinam, he does not give a dakshina or he does not give proper dakshina. That is why the priests are nowadays, they are also started demanding. We should not wait for them to demand at all, right? We should look at what is the cost of living and make sure that we give this extra, right? So, in fact, in one of the sites, I actually saw there's a gradation of priests, grade A, B, C, and then they have a rate bill, based on that A, B, C, etc. I think it was harivara.com or something, right? So when obviously people also don't know how much to give, and I'm happy that at least they have some indication. So you know that that's the minimum that you have to give, right? Treat it as the minimum, and then we can always give more than that. So therefore, adakshinam, without proper dakshina, and asushta annam, one of the integral parts of all our puja is danam or charity. Not only we are supposed to offer charities, but danam is an integral part of that karma itself, right? Karmanga danam, right? There is Swatantra Danam, which is an independent charity, and there's a Karmanga Danam, which is a compulsory as part of the karma. When we are doing that karma, we are supposed to give the final, the Danam, Shodasha Danam it is called, right? So the karma becomes complete only when this is done, right? So that minimum Danam like Anna Danam, Vastra Danam, etc. we are supposed to do, right? So we have to make sure that we take care of that, right? And similarly, whether guru needs dakshina or not doesn't matter at all, but guru dakshina must be given, right? So now it is very important that we take care of these things, whether it is any kind of yajna, right? For everything, right? So nothing is free, basically. Like we have a saying that there is no free lunch, right? So like that. Now there must be adequate compensation for everything, right? So the people who do karma without dakshina, right? And basically the priest is not allowed to ask dakshina, right? So the prohita is supposed to take whatever is given. But nowadays, as I said, the priest himself has to ask also, and if we don't give that also, that is also wrong. If as long as it is reasonable and in line with the current days, the cost of living, etc. Okay, very important aspect here. So asishta annam means without annadanam and adakshinam, and shraddha virahitam, without shraddha in the karma, right? We should have shraddha in whatever we are doing. Only then we would be able to complete the ritual and get the phalam also, right? So Shastra says, Pashu kama chintita, ishti kama chintita, kamayadi chintita. So if you want this phalam, do this yajna, Veda says. So I should have faith, just like I go to a doctor with faith. Even for all these karmas, we need faith. Shraddha is very important, right? So the whole thing is based on Shraddha. Very important shloka. Mantre tirte dvije deve daivagne veshaje gurau yadrishi bhavana yasya siddhir bhavati tadrishi. So how the Shraddha is in mantra, tirtha, in the sacred rivers, right? If I have a Shraddha that if I take a dip in Ganga, the papam will go, right? Dvije, a Brahmin who's doing a ritual for us, right? The priest, if we have Shraddha in him. Deva means Bhagavan. Daivagni, the astrologer. Lot of Shraddha is required. Beshajam, the person, the medicine, right? And you should also believe that the doctor can save me. Then Guru, finally, in your own Guru. All these 7 items, the benefit. Which are the 7? Mantre, Tirthe, Dvije, Deve, Daivagne, Beshaje, Guru. all these 7 items, the benefit you get is directly proportional to the intensity of your faith. So in tamasic yajna, exactly, right, that is lacking. The Shraddha is lacking. In fact, Shraddham is called Shraddham because we are doing it with Shraddha. If we don't have Shraddha, then why would we believe in Sukshma Shariram and why would we actually do Shraddham, right? And it is part of Pancha Mahayajna, right? So, Shraddhaya Kritam Shraddham. So, in Tamasik Yajna, Shraddha is not there, right? So, Tamasam Parachakshate, Parichakshate. So, with this, the 3 types of Yajna is over, right? So 3 types of tapas is what we have to do next, right? So the Krishna is going in that order. So 7th verse we saw in the 2nd line, yajnaha, tapas, then danam, right? So now yajna is over. So we have to go to tapas. So this is the tabular form which is completed here. So in fact, actually now Krishna has completed the 3rd one here, right? So we will continue with verse 14, that is the tapas topic, in the next class. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Do we have any questions? Food dry means before or after preparation. After preparation only, because before preparation came under raw food itself, which was handled, right? So yes, in the earlier years, there's a point here. Esther years, even the cooked food in the morning was considered old for the night, right? That is true. So that was in the olden days, because they didn't even have very cool homes with AC and all of that. Nothing was there, right? And the ventilation and other things, there was quite a bit of heat, especially in the south. So even morning food, they used to not keep it, and generally they used to eat before sunset because there was no electricity, etc. Right? So especially for a spiritual seeker, this becomes very, very important. Any other questions? Actually, next week's class is it will be a very, very practical and very important shloka that we will be doing on Vak Tapas, which is so generic that it can be used in corporate organizations. I talk about it when I address management students and professionals also. Very useful tapas, which is Vak Tapas. So we will see that in detail. This entire chapter is a very, very practical chapter. You can apply it almost every day in all kinds of situations. So since we are going to be actually meeting only next week, and in between there is Shivaratri on 11, just in case any of you are interested in trying, right, Maunam or Vak Tapas, you could try it on Shivaratri day, if not for the full day, for a few hours, and see and experience how it actually feels to not talk. And when I say not talk, it also means you're off emails and you're not using your mobile to do WhatsApp. So if you could do that, and you can actually experience how it works. Hari Om. So we will meet next week, same time.